Assalamualaikum. So we will start shortly. Welcome to East La Brea Live, and we're going to add our first guest, Halima Lucas. Oh, you do not want to see my kitchen. You're seeing that? Cover that. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah. Oh no, it's back. It is back. You are seeing my whole kitchen. Yeah. How are you doing? Okay, we got Sameer here. Yeah, we're gonna have to edit that out, but that's okay. That's okay. My dishes, my bread. You can see I'm not like gluten-free. We're not living that gluten-free life right now, even though we should be. So, yeah, so let's get started. For those who are joining this live, we are going to be talking about a new show that just came out, East La Brea, and we'll talk with the creatives who are behind it. And so for the next hour, we'll be talking with some of the screenwriters, the executive producer, and one of the consultants to talk about the show, its significance, and all the good things that we address, and just check in. Like, how's everything? Are you in LA right now, Halima?
Yeah, I'm still out here in La La
Wow.
Land.
So they've opened, I heard they're opening up the salons, the barber shops, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at home. I'm not trying to get exposed, but the few times that I've had to go out, LA's traffic is back the way it was
Back.
before, and it's
Oh.
been that way for a bit. So yeah, it's crazy. It's definitely crazy.
Yeah, well, I was just we went to the beach and we thought we could do all the social distancing at the beach, but like Newport Beach, like the cafes, they were all open. So, let's try to avoid the folks that are going out without masks and try to stay safe and healthy. So let's just kind of shift to talk about Break the Room, East La Brea. So just a little bit about the series. You can actually view all 6 episodes of the season that are available at Powder Keg TV at the Instagram Live. So if you look at like today was the final episode, and so it kind of leaves us on a cliffhanger. And so if you haven't seen it, you can watch each of those episodes. They're about 10 minutes a piece, so you can see the whole thing in about an hour. And we hope you join us for the discussion now. So if you have questions about it, please do reach out. So just really, I guess, really quickly, did you want to just give us a little rundown of the series for those who haven't had a chance to watch it?
Sure, yeah. It's East of La Brea is a web series about it really follows the lives of three Los Angelinos and young adults, and it looks at what in some ways just the millennial life of what it's like for these three folks, but particularly looking at the communities that they come from, the inter-community relationships that they have, and them just trying to figure out what they want to do in life, and with their lives. And so it leans into, it's a comedy, but it does not shy away from the issues within community and in relation to institutions like white supremacy, racism, and things like that. So it's a great series that leans into all of these things, especially stuff that really speaks to things like allyship, stuff that is really getting magnified at this time. So yeah.
Yeah, that is I'm just really excited to see some of the themes, and they're still relevant. So we were in the writers' room in 2017. And so, like, you know, and each will kind of like reveal some of the pieces of the writer's room. But I want to hear from your experience. Can you talk about Break the Room, what the writer's room looked like in the process of creating East to La Brea?
Hmm. Yeah, so the writer's room, which was came about through Break the Room, and it was an initiative that really sought to, you know, break the barriers that generally keep folks from marginalized communities from being able to get the experience of being in a writer's room. And it was also with the intention of like rapidly responding to things that was happening in the community. And so the room itself was a room full of women of color, and it was just a great experience because it we all were this was for some of us the first time we had been in a room, and it was facilitated with the mind of like, we want our work, we want the environment to be inclusive and accessible for everyone, and educational, and we want the work that we put out to be authentic and also just true and real, and mindful of any problematic messaging. And so in the room, it was so great having a facilitated environment, including anti-racism training and curriculum, and it was just wonderful. It was a great room to be in, especially as a woman of color, feeling like, oh yeah, I have stake and equity in this room and space. And I think what you get to see on screen, like, is because of that. It's definitely because of that.
Wow, that is just really wonderful to hear. As you know, that was the first time I worked to convene and facilitate. I was like, you know, to like help apply for the grant and coordinating. And so it, you know, I want to know from your experience, like how did, like what was different? Was it different from other rooms you've been in, and how?
Yeah, I mean, other rooms that I've been in, and I right now I'm currently staffed in a room, and I think there's, not that I think, I know, and there is such a hesitancy around bringing in consultants and doing the work that it takes to facilitate an environment where you're being held accountable for the imagery and the stories that you're putting out there. I think that Hollywood has this, in entertainment industry in general, has this perception that, well, if you do this kind of work, and if you tell people and you bring this kind of consultancy, and you try to put the energy towards making it this kind of environment, that it sucks the possibility for comedy and really honest storytelling. And what I loved about Issa LeBray is that this exemplified what that looks like in its best form, because the show we was is hilarious. It's super funny, and it does all of that while bringing in community members and community consultants to speak to the different perspectives, and with care about representation, and with care about having conversations, important conversations, and progressive conversations. And so it's very different from other rooms that I've been in, because other rooms that I've been in shy away from that, and they come up with a bazillion reasons why they can't do that. And I want East of La Brea to not be an exception, but it needs to be the this needs to be the bar. Like, this needs to be the standard at which we look and go about our content. Is this is the work that is needed to get the best kind of work, and to push the best kind of storylines, not just for the people who are in the space, right? Because I was in a call where they talked about, we want to, you know, we need to have more seats at the table, but it's like, we don't need just a seat at the table. When we have a seat, we need it to not collapse underneath us when we sit in it. And that's also a difference with this kind of structure and this kind of facilitation, is like, there's a care for the people to put them in the room, and to make sure that they are cared and in the space as creators, but also to treat our characters like they're real people, and to give them the space to breathe and be authentic as well.
That is just so amazing. You have so many fans there. I just want people to know, like, we actually do plan on doing deeper dives. We're going to have more panels, talk about this work, talk about just even your career now. Like we have some stars in that room, so it's just really amazing. You had Sahir, he wrote something, like Sameer and Munira's son, like he typed in some stuff. You had cheerleader in there, so we are big fans of your work. Thank you so much, and we will circle back. For those who are just watching, please be sure to tune in, follow Powder Keg TV. Definitely follow Halima Lucas. She's amazing, and all of our screenwriters are brilliant. We're gonna have next up is Nia Malika Dixon. So thank you.
Thank you.
So good to see you. So good to see you. So hopefully I can make sure you don't see my kitchen anymore. Nia, I think you'll have to recruit or request to join the live. Not sure how I could do that. This is my first live, y'all, so bear with me. Oh, here we go. Slams, all so many wonderful greetings, all the hearts. Thank you, Floyd.
Hey.
It is so good to see you. So good to see you. How are you holding up?
Oh my goodness, you're so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So are you. Oh my gosh.
I really
miss you. Miss you all. I'm just thinking about that, us all in that room, every morning I was like driving, I was speeding down, trying to get to the 10 Chinatown and that bakery and all the good food that we had in that room.
Yeah. Thank you, Sameer. You fed us so well. Oh
yeah. They had such good food there. We were definitely spoiled. So I went to, can you give your experience as a Black Muslim woman? How did you feel about the creation and development of Aisha's character?
Oh, well, first of all, I wanted to say that everything Halima said was amazing. And I just wanted to say how proud I am of her, and just like the whole talk. I don't even have to say anything now.
Oh no, we need to hear from you. You are so brilliant.
So brilliant. Like, for real, for real. But
I was a fly on the wall, and also just really blessed to see the creative process and the synergy. And so, that was the first time of me seeing, that creating a character. Yeah, can you talk about that experience of breathing life into that character?
honestly, the whole room was so conducive to being creative. It was just such a blessing. And as a writer, you can only dream to have that kind of room where everybody's goal is the story and we're all working together. That to me was heaven. And then, to have a character whose name is, I literally have a little sister named Aisha. So it was just kind of natural for me to come up with some kinds of stories in my head based on that, because I know so many women like Aisha. And yeah, as Black women, it was really important for me to show us being real. Like we're Black women with the same issues, and I mean, of course, compounded with other things that come along with, being Muslim and having to deal with not only racism, but also Islamophobia. And then adding on to Aisha's character that she is the daughter of an immigrant, that is just so much that we as Black Muslim women have to deal with. And it's all summed up in a tweet I read earlier that Black women are battling so many wars. We have so many stories. And a lot of them are just, us trying to be grown-ups and handle our business.
Yeah, yeah. So what about the process? Like what was the, because not everybody's been in a writer's room, so it's kind of like this place you just imagine. So maybe you could talk about like what did, from what you remember, because it's been a whirlwind and it's been a couple years, but like how did the writers come up with developing Aisha as a character?
So the whiteboard is just like the magic tool of a writer. And we had an entire wall that was a whiteboard, so that was wonderful. And having the opportunity to break story together with other women who really get the story, and that to me, it was really affirming, because honestly, as Muslims, that's our culture, is that we are inclusive. That, I mean, it's part of our culture to be hospitable, and having that translate into a writer's room, a Hollywood writer's room where everybody's included and affirmed and welcomed, to me, that was just magic. I loved it. And I wish and it's not a wish, every writer's room can have that if we put in the work.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really, really amazing. So was there anything that was kind of that you felt that was so important about getting Aisha characters right? Like when we see Black Muslim women on screen, what was some things that were missing, and what were certain things that you were just like, we have to get this in for the character? So I remember there was something, your episode.
Because there was those things, that if we were in the audience watching and it didn't show up, we'd be like, wait a minute now, this is not, click, let's watch something else. I
Mhm.
mean, that's how I would be. But it's like, I honestly just wanted people to see her as this full-fledged, fully realized person, a Black American woman who has this rich culture, who has these strong beliefs, who has this passion for what she feels drives her purpose. And to me, that was really important. And we all put our hearts into that, because I'm sure everybody knows a strong Black Muslim woman. You know one.
Mhm. Yeah, I know a few. I know a few.
My
I'm raising one. I'm raising one, and she's.
daughter is 25, and every time I look at her, I think to myself that she is what I do this for. That's
Mhm.
why I do this. It's not only to show herself, a picture of herself on screen being just a regular, awesome, beautiful Black Muslim girl, but also it's responsible storytelling. Our stories are so diverse and layered and nuanced. We could tell stories for days and everybody have a good old time. Trust me.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I did not want to leave out is that we do cuss.
That was good. I'm glad you didn't leave that out, because it does happen. It does happen, even with the best
It's
of us.
calmed and I cuss, but I cuss like a sailor.
Yeah. So I appreciate that honest and authentic storytelling. It's like what we kind of do when we're not we may not cuss at the masjid, even though
No,
I've heard it, at times from, but getting that realness, and it was just very powerful. Thank you so much. Your writing was really phenomenal during and you were just such a great participant and such a joy to work with in building. And I just seeing that magic of how creative you all were and how passionate you were to get that story out.
yeah,
It was truly like I felt like so blessed to see, like as someone who always aspired to be like when I was a little girl and I was 4 years old, like, and I had wanted to be a writer. Like I used to write stories, and I've been writing stories since then. And stories were always this kind of lonely process, like you write it by yourself, but to see collective writing and to
yeah,
see everything that came out of that and the type of depth of character, like that was just really beautiful. And how they listened to you, right? Like how people heard you share your experiences as a Black Muslim woman, and when you're saying what was important for you,
yeah.
that was also that just proved to me the power of doing an anti-racist screenwriters room.
Thank you. Because honestly, in my heart, I'm getting emotional because it's like it's because of you. I really do believe that. And yeah, before I start getting all teary-eyed, I want to
Yeah, thank you.
my siblings because they were my first audience, and my number one audience member is my baby brother Bilal. He's the last of my mom's kids. Out of the seven of us, I was the first, he's the last, and he's my number one reader. So I create these stories for my family.
Thank you. Wow, it's really powerful, and would love to hear from them. I know my family is really enjoying that, and they're so proud of all of you. We did get a question around what is responsible storytelling. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit? And as we work to I'm gonna work at behind the scenes to try to pull up Thandi, who is an activist
Oh yeah.
from Los Angeles, so we can talk about that. But can you elaborate a little bit more on what is responsible storytelling?
So honestly, to me, being a responsible storyteller, I mean, I take it seriously. I could talk about story all day. And I consider myself a griot, and I take that seriously too, because it's our responsibility to tell not just the shiny, beautiful parts, but also the ugly, we don't really want to talk about parts. And you have to craft it in a way that is accessible, that your audience will really listen and feel it, instead of browbeating them with it, or even don't be sneaky, because audiences are very intelligent. And honestly, I honor my audiences. Whenever I'm writing something, I write with my audience in mind. And so that to me is honest storytelling, giving everything. Don't leave anything out, don't hold back, and let the story do what it's meant to do, and that is to change hearts and minds and convey these experiences.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We hope that for those who are watching the show now, to give us your feedback, to talk about some of the themes, what came up for you. So feel free to ask questions. We will work on getting those answered. And like I said earlier, we do plan on doing more programming, starting more conversations around the themes of the show, and some of the things, and to think about where would they be now during
Right.
COVID, during these national protests. So let's think about that, and hopefully we'll have some next steps,
Hey,
God
look,
willing.
season two to me.
Mhm. Inshallah, we'll keep everyone posted of what when as we get details, when we can reveal them. So thank you so much. We will be following up with you to continue the discussion, to learn more about your work. So everyone, be sure to follow Aldaz, Black Muslim Girl Fly. Can you tell us a little bit more, about your work, like
Well,
how to follow?
honestly, if you follow on BMG Fly, everywhere on social media, you'll see everything. Our production company is Audace. But I started BMG Fly, which stands for Black Muslim Girl Fly, because that's what I do. I empower people who look and live like me, starting with myself first. Every time I say that, I say I'm starting with myself first. And I'm just following BMG Fly. And of course, my full name, Nia Malika Dixon. And thank you so much to Jeffrey Maya and Kausar and Rufino. You guys, you took our words and you made magic. So follow them. Follow them
Yes,
on Twitter and Instagram too.
thank you so much. I'm gonna cry. They're just
Oh
beautiful.
no, then I'm gonna start.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
I put,
thank you.
okay, come on, Al.
Okay, I know. Okay. Okay, Salika, we'll be talking soon. Okay, we're gonna pull up Tani. Bye.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. And next up, we are going to go live with Tandi. Here we go. I know y'all see the tears. There's a trick. If you go like this and look up, then that'll stop the tears from flowing. Mommy, it's gonna start again. It's too
Salam alaikum.
long. Alaikum salam. Too long.
Yeah.
It's so good to see you. Your city, Los Angeles. Yeah. Wow.
Hey, I'm not sure who the fit monster is, but hey.
Hey. You are an activist that made across the bridge to TV writing. How did you've crossed that bridge. How did this room serve as a bridge for you?
Well, I got into journalism. I got into media because of my activism, because I saw how the narrative could empower or disempower, how it could be used against organizers and activists, against our causes, against our communities. So I initially got into journalism, and screenwriting of films is something I've always been interested in, just as a consumer. And I saw the opportunity where Sameer put out the call. I answered the call. I bribed his wife. I applied like everyone else. And I was chosen, and it was a wonderful experience. I'm so appreciative to you and to Sameer for coming together and putting it together. I'm so appreciative to my sister writers in the room who carried me. You know, I'm a big girl, so I need, you know, that was a lot of work. So they were able to carry me, because I had never been in a screenwriting room before. I've written creatively short stories, but I had never been in an actual writer's room. And so I'm just eternally grateful for the opportunity to be placed there. And I'm eternally grateful that I met Tanha and Halima and Nia.
This is really, one, like what your application, like your submission was phenomenal. There was a lot of really great scripts and everything. And I remember when we were down to the finals, and it was you definitely were a standout. So it was a well-deserved, and the chemistry that you all brought in, like we had to think about just everything that people brought, and the authenticity, and to see you work with folks, and your episode was really, really powerful. That's the cookout.
That was actually Halima, but I'm gonna take the credit. No.
Yeah. You have to take all the take your credit, so how did you, like as far as bridging into TV writing from activists, can you talk a little bit about, how did this the screenwriters room serve as a bridge for you into bringing the activism world and this kind of creative world together?
It's the same purpose, to tell a story thoughtfully and truthfully. And what I wanted to learn were principles. What are the principles? What is the structure that is needed? Now, the structure that is needed is not necessarily always the best in order to tell a particular story, but it's nice to learn the rules before you break them.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to learn them first, and then you can decide where and when to break them.
That is brilliant, because sometimes we don't always know the discipline, or just even like how can people get that opportunity to tell those types of stories and to understand that format. So can you just kind of, I know we talked about the cookout episode, but what was your favorite part of the creation of East to La Brea and the execution of it?
I was thinking about this before I came on, and I think when I really think about it, I think the part that I like best were the arguments. I think that's what I like best. Aisha wouldn't do that. Yes, she would. Well, how do you know? That kind of stuff. No, Farhar would do that. That's definitely Farhar. I don't know. So I think it was fun bouncing things back and forth over people. And like, no, we can't do that. That's just crazy. We can't do that. No, Sameer, no. That kind of stuff. So Sameer saying, yeah, you did. So yeah, I think I enjoyed that part the most. But But Sameer teases me. It's like there's a new catchphrase now. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Help me understand what we're doing here. So I'm a consumer of media. I actually like to what's the word that they say? Suspend disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a problem with that. But then sometimes like, oh, that wouldn't happen. Well, none of it would happen. It's make believe. No, that was crazy. No. That's not realistic. And so telling a story, having creative license, but not getting too far off the realism path.
Mm-hmm.
I like being able to do that type of thing.
Nia said the hot salami and bacon.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, I found that was, there were important interventions, even, kind of behind the scenes, like things that were not necessarily on the screen, but that went in depth about the characters and their background so that, we could, like, that you all could, like, build out how they would respond in different scenarios. So, those details that you really, I remember you were like, nope, that's not realistic for Los Angeles. Or if they went to that school, then they would, like, so there's a lot of background details and such deep thoughtfulness and your understanding of Los Angeles. And as an activist, so we have another guest in our, she does not know she's on Instagram Live. I guess she's eating a cookie. But, like that type of development work and just making sure that these were full rounded characters that, we understood those motivations and you being part of that. But I truly believe you really made the character of Los Angeles. Los Angeles was a real character in those scenes coming alive.
Is also its own character. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was really powerful. And as an activist that loves Los Angeles, like you brought so much of that love in there, and I'm just forever like I learned so much being in the room and watching you work and build out, Los Angeles in this, in the writer's room. So thank you. Yeah, so we will still continue these conversations. There's so much to unpack as far as like East to La Brea, break the room. What is the process of creating a new pipeline of creatives to tell authentic stories, responsible, like, community, like responsible stories. And so, yeah, so we'll try to answer a few of those questions coming in. I will, we next have Alejandro coming up, who is one of our consultants. And we could talk a little bit about that partnership. Like, I guess, some creatives have, a little bit of concern about the role that consultants played, but we had a very different approach to consultants each day.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so again, thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Okay, so we're going to pull up our next make sure we're waiting for Central American Studies. There you go. I wasn't sure if that was you. I was like,
yeah, it's me.
Sure.
How are you?
You're that guy. That guy. Yes. Oh my God. I said, okay, go in the room. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for putting this on. This is so sweet. Like, in all the depth of what that means, it's so sweet to see everybody reflect. And at a time that I think we all need reflection and joy, this is really beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. I needed to be here. So, I mean, can you just a little bit about yourself and how you came into the room?
Yeah, so at that time I was a struggling academic trying to finish a PhD. That it would take another year. I was going through a bunch of my own personal things, and eventually I got a tenure track job at Cal State LA, and I'm a professor in Pan-African Studies and Latin American Studies. My focus is really Central American studies and Black and Indigenous resistance and rebellion in the Isthmus, but also in the diaspora, namely in LA. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I'm from South Central. I'm born and raised. And, you know, for any student or person who's met me, like, I'm pretty much about that life, you know, like when it comes to like this area. So seeing this project develop, like, and having that kind of like tie to the community and these multiple communities was really dope. So I thought it was a really good fit. I didn't really know what it was though, right? Like you reached out and I was like, let's do it. You know, like I respected you, you know, and I know you're not gonna lead me the wrong way. So
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, we have to have, because it's like I know you on Twitter, palm trees and jeans. I was like, we got to have this brother on, get his insight, and I've been wanting to work with you for so long, and I guess like we brought you in as part of both the writers' room, and then we had that dinner, like the storytellers collab. So what would you like to convey and share with the writers about Los Angeles?
So I think one of the things that, you know, I kind of figured out, you know, again, like, like Dandy and other folks, like this is my first experience, you know, like in that kind of realm, right? Like not the storytelling realm, so to speak, right? Like, cause, you know, for a lot of us that come through ethnic studies, right? Like my PhD is in ethnic studies and a lot of that is storytelling, right? And so not the actual, that space, but to see the stories develop in a particular way about the city, they usually tend to be when it's about Latinx folks, right? Like they tend to be Mexican or Chicano centric, right? And so you think about something like Gentrified or even On My Block, right? Like it's still this kind of like view of LA as a kind of like Mexican kind of like city. And it is in a lot of ways, right? But there's also other diasporas. And so I think what I wanted the show to show is the depths and the nuances and the complexities of what it means to be Central American, right? And even within that, there's so many other complexities, right? But even just to have like those nuances was really like one of the main points that I thought would be important for the show. And there was a lot that really was captured well in it about those nuances, about like kind of Central
Mm-hmm.
American.
Yeah, well, I mean, one, it's like, I mean, well, we have the character of Moises, right? And so, and I guess like like even in that region, right? Like that area of Los Angeles of like South LA, can you maybe share a little bit about, like the history of Central Americans in South LA?
Right. So yeah, you know, Central Americans migrate, right, like in large numbers, beginning in the 70s, right? Like there's an initial wave that is significant. My mom comes to this country from Guatemala in 1973, towards the tail end of that era, right? But then there's these very big kind of political disruptions and civil unrest and really genocidal civil wars in places like namely El Salvador and Guatemala, right? Like, which are the first kind of major waves of people coming over in the early 80s. When folks start coming over here, right? Like they're coming over here undocumented, right? Made illegal because of the politics that are a lot bigger than, than we probably have time to speak about. But that kind of really stifled some Central American socioeconomic mobility, right? And so with that, I think folks gravitated to South LA because it was affordable, right? Like it is a kind of like a space that is affordable and a site that people were able to kind of live in, right? Along with, Pico Union and kind of West Adams, Koreatown area, right? Which is featured in the prominently in the show, right? Like these kind of areas around Pico. But South LA is really like a hotspot for multiple kind of Central American communities, right? So from Belizean communities to Panamanian communities, right? Like in Compton, shout out to my homegirl, Janice, who is a writer and a brilliant urban planner. And, and then along with, Salvadoran and Guatemalan, and then later on Honduran communities who come over here, Nicaraguans as well, and a little trickle of Costa Ricans. But there is a lot of kind of settlement in South LA, and that's really my story. So my family is from South Central, and I mean, I came to South Central, and I was just born and raised there, and I've never left, and I'm still here. So that comes about.
Yeah. So when you were in the writer's room, so for those who don't know, like in the process for 4 days, right, of the writers' room, we brought in consultants to be part. Like, can you share a little bit about that process of being a consultant, and what was it like in the daytime when you were in the writers' room?
What was dope, right? Like, I mean, I walked into a space, I didn't know where it was at, right? I think it was in Chinatown. And, going into the space, and I was like, I don't really know what this is going to be, like, I was like, let's see what it's going to be like. And so we come into the space, and folks are just asking us questions. And what Halima said earlier about, like, it was very inclusive, and it didn't feel like this, like, off-putting space, like a bunch of people, right, like, who have, like, skills, right? Like, my assumption was everyone has, like, has been prolific writers and been in these spaces, and then here we come, right, as like kind of outsiders, being like, oh, I don't know what's going on. It just felt like everyone was really respectful and kind of gracious, and also was treating every one of us like with dignity, like we're bringing something to this, right, like that is needed to develop the project, right, whatever it was going to develop into. So like it felt like a classroom, like a space where we were just kind of going back and forth, but like there was a lot of questions. What would this be? Like even hearing Thandi right now say like the arguments in the writers' room, right? Like not that I saw necessarily those things, but like the back and forth of like the questions and the dialogues, it just felt very like organic and generative conversations, and it was just a really beautiful experience. And I'm down to do it again with y'all, like or
Yeah,
wherever.
we're happy.
With this particular space, right? Because I also learned from you all like that obviously this is not how it goes, right? Like generally that those writers' rooms are not like that. So, I keep singing the praises of the experience because it also just taught me a lot about that creative process, right? And what it could be collaboratively.
Yeah, and like Handi was saying, it wasn't really arguing. Like, I mean, folks were like real passionate and they pleaded their case, and so it was like the best idea floated. But sometimes you have, you know, idea, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis to be something that's really powerful. I'm sorry, I just had to do my Hegelian dialectic. You're an academic, so you know what I'm talking about, the dialectic.
Yeah.
So it was really beautiful. Like you really helped breathe so much life into the areas, into the neighborhoods, but also really helped us build a very beautiful character that, and that we feel like the actor Rufino, like he was just so, like he really embodied it. So there's like a short video when I just said he was like how I imagined that he would be like
Yeah.
when they were building out the character.
Yeah.
There's just so much love that you brought into the space, for the city and for the characters and for us, so thank you. We
Yeah.
look forward to actually building out like especially some of the themes that are coming out in Los Angeles now. So we look forward to collaborating more, and you sharing more of your story with us.
Good to see you all. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, see, yeah, that's true. Like Tanya.
Uh,
Okay, we'll see you.
how do I close this? Sound good?
Okay. And last but not least, we will be bringing out our executive director, probably the hardest working man in show business. Assalamualaikum.
Welcome, Salam. How are you doing, Margari?
I'm, hey, today's ups and downs, and I was like super nervous about this. This is my first live, and you know how much I love this project and what this means, that we're here and it's out in the world. Thank you. How do you
Yeah,
feel? How do you feel now that people have had a chance to finally see the product you've been working on for so long?
it's been such a journey. It's crazy. I mostly have worked in primetime television. So when independent filmmakers come up to me and say, "Oh, I've been working on this for 5 years," I'm like, that's insane. And now it's almost been 3 years. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's exactly how it is." No, I'm just happy. I feel like this is the conclusion to the story that we created. When we got together, I want to say it was the summer of 2017. Muslim ban was rampant, and we just had a really, really important conversation. It's like, how do we change? And I think that's where you connected me with Pop Culture Collab, and it's sort of built from there. I feel like since then so much has happened, and even among our writers, everyone has been doing so many amazing things. It's it's so important that this is out, but also I just want to highlight, like, this is bigger than this show, where we all started off and how far we got.
That is just really, really, it is really incredible to see the response. It's been, so positive. I mean, you've done lots of work. Like, you are an industry insider, and, this is definitely a labor of love. How did you feel about this type of collaboration?
It was fantastic. I mean, I think that the issue with Hollywood is that they often do this work after the product is done. And, with that, they kind of look at it as an insurance policy. It's like, oh, we better check in with the Muslims now, make sure that they're okay with it. And then when you bring feedback to the table, they're like, oh, yeah, great, fantastic. We really didn't want your opinion, but we just wanted to, give the illusion that your voice matters. So to me, I think this is an integral process in narrative change work, being able to bring community organizers, thought leaders into the room and to build the narrative. I feel like both of these categories, when you're talking about artists and you're talking about organizers and activists, they're so crucial to this larger paradigm shift work. And I think that if we don't check each other's notes all the time, we're not going to be able to be as effective as we need to be.
Yeah, it's really powerful. So, I mean, why is it, break the room? One, like, I mean, I think, yeah, like, can you explain the concept and why it's important for us to break the room?
Yeah, it's it's simply just an idea to think about IP incubation in an entirely different way. What does it look like if Hollywood isn't the only infrastructure out there? What does it look like if you actually think about the creative hubs that have existed, continue to exist in these different cities, not only in the States, but throughout the world? What does it mean to start galvanizing their spirits? What does it mean to empower them? That's essentially what we're about. So in the first year, Powder Keg funded our slate, and we did a room in Albuquerque with the Dene community. We did a room in Hawaii with Dwayne Johnson's company, which is all Polynesian room. We did a room with Dila, who's a stand-up comic, a trans stand-up comic, and that was all queer and trans room. So, what we do is the risk that a lot of people aren't willing to take. And I think Halima touched on this. It was that, the idea that this will somehow make the content worse, to engage this level, it'll make the content worse. It won't be funny, or it won't be provocative, whatever the reasons are. But I think that it's actually quite the opposite. I think that if you engage the community at the very beginning, you're going to yield amazing results. I forget who spoke to this, but when I think about Isla Brea, now watching it, and it's been probably half a year since I've watched it, it's layered and it's nuanced, and I think that has less to do with the structure of the storytelling as it does to do with the voices we tried to illustrate. So, for instance, every character is almost an outsider within their own specific community. When we're talking about the Black American community, we want to highlight specifically the Black Muslim American experience. When we're talking about the Latinx experience, we want to highlight what it looked like from a Central American perspective, specifically Salvadorian American. When we're talking about the South Asian Muslim community, we want to highlight specifically Little Bangladesh, the Bangladeshi community. And so these are all very invisibilized, broader categories and identities that exist already. We want to take the extra step. And so that's a tall order. Say like, okay, we're going to try to tell these stories of people that, in a mainstream sense, don't even know exist. And how are we going to do that? But we took every challenge, and I think that only enriched the process. And, Tani saying the arguing, right? Like, that was always to the betterment of the creative. And even though it took us on these tangents and
I love the tangents.
It led to a better product. And so I guess that's all to say that if it's hard, it's worth the doing. And I think that is really what the Break the Rooms experience is, and what it's been so for me.
Yeah, that is just really, really amazing. I mean, I think the Break the Room model is really great. And it definitely aligns with our anti-racism competencies of one, I mean, we did do that kind of self-assessment of like, what did we all know? What did we understand about, anti-racism, the learning? So there was like some of the frameworks, like, we were definitely blessed of having like very aware, self-aware folks in the room. So it didn't take that much of like bringing them, you know, into kind of awareness of the relationship between like the narratives that we were creating and how those were challenging dominant narratives and how the dominant narratives impact like policies, you know, decision making, like the oppression that had gone on. So like behind the scenes, we have so much richness that informed how the characters moved on page, and then that shaped how they went on screen, and I think that really conveyed. And then, but the partnership, so that consultancy, that accountability part, where we did ask the consultants who were all part of the community. So they were in Los Angelinos, who were organizers, who were going to talk about like their life story. So they shared their life story, and then they answered questions, right? And we knew at the end, it's like, well, what would they say? You know, like as partners in the storytelling. And then finally institutionalized, like every step of the way, from Powder Keg, which has diversity, that, you know, from the production, the people behind the scenes, the actors, and even now at the distribution, like we're just talking about community led. I think in every way that this has been like a community powered project and led, you know, created by people of color, for people of color, not thinking about like we have to translate everything. So that was really powerful. So as an observer, you know, as someone who many times I felt either like a fly on the wall, but I could like buzz in. So I was like one of those people like in the room. It was really beautiful to see your mentorship and advocacy through the story. So I would just say like, thank you for being such a great mentor to all of us learning about writing and doing this project. Yeah, is there any other thoughts, you know, you want to share about the project?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to, you know, thank the writers, Tanha, who you didn't hear from today, but she may be in the chat. Hey, Tanha, what's up?
Can we pull her in? We're gonna pull her in.
Yeah, Christina, who was our writer's assistant, Sam Bailey, who was our amazing director, Auntie Chang, who was our DP, just everyone, the cast and crew, Kosser, Jeffrey, Rufino. You know, there's a trickle-down effect that naturally happened that I think people can attest to who are part of this process. If you're intentional in the very beginning, in the very inception of everything, things will happen, magical things will happen. And, you know, if we're talking about the crew was, you know, majority POC. I want to say all the departments were women of color leads. All of this stuff just naturally happened because you started working with like-minded people that understood the vision, but also understood the right people to be able to tell this story. And so I hate to use the word diversity, but the diversity throughout was just phenomenal. And I do think that it's both the behind the scenes process and also the production process that allowed us to be able to tell such a beautiful story. And the other thing I'll say is, like, if you like this series, please share it, send it to your folks. You know, I think that it's going to be a word of mouth thing. I feel like this is something where people need to, like, you know, get their folks together after they've watched it. I think that it's going to have that type of effect. So I encourage you to please, like, if there's anyone that wants to really just learn about a story about LA that's often not seen, this is the one to choose.
Thank you so much. So can we pull Tanha up?
Yeah, if you're in here, you can get pulled up, right?
Okay, yeah, let's pull her. So thank you. We'll try to bring you on like for closing thoughts before we close out.
Yeah,
So,
I'll be there.
Okay.
So much, Margari.
Thank you. It's been too long. I got my earbuds, but I didn't know. I thought I could make it through. So I don't know. If you can't hear me, just let me know. We'll figure out something.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I had a work meeting, so I couldn't do it, but I wanted to tune in and support.
Thank you. So Tanha is one of our brilliant writers in the room. I guess, yeah, like, I mean, we, you know, our two characters, right? We had, you know, Farha, who's Bangladeshi American. And I guess, you know, like, can you share what did you want to convey about being Bangladeshi in Los Angeles in the story, and anything else you want to tell about, you know, the experience?
It was well, I think it's always a surprise to me, even now, when people ask what kind of stories you want to tell. And then the fact is, when you and Sameer put up the application process to ask about voices that weren't really heard, and then during the process of interviewing with you, Sameer asked about like the Bengali community. I kind of always feel like it's not allowed to talk about like my culture, because it's not it wasn't in. And so it almost felt like you both were allowing me to exist, or like or people like me to exist. And so I think it was important to see it on paper and then see it on screen. And I remember going to the mosque and getting the scene like filmed, and there was a crew behind it, and there was like it felt surreal, because it's very powerful to see that translate, like the work being translated, but to be in that moment, like, I don't know what birth feels like, but it felt great. It felt like we were not a part of just this one moment. We did a ripple effect, and obviously we're online right now, and it's speaking to so many other people, regardless of them being Bengali, Black, or El Salvadorian. I think what we brought was, well, we brought humans up, and I think that's what connected all of us. And I really hope, I mean, it's amazing what we did in 3 years. I couldn't imagine that at all. Yeah, but you allowed it. You at least had that thought and said, we're going to be honest with our work, and it's going to speak. And I think we accomplished what we set out to do.
Thank you. I mean, it was just brilliant writing, you know, and we couldn't have had a better writer's room, you know. Yeah, is there anything else like you would share about like the experience, like as of writing, of creating, you know, a kind of a complex characters?
I think, and I think this is a testament to the work that you and Sameer and MuslimARC do, is that we don't think about what will consistently entertain, because we feel like, I think we were sold a model, and then we literally broke it. And I'm very grateful that to have gone through that experience, because I at the moment feel, whether I in that moment am told that it's not going to sell, I will still be able to be genuine with what I want to write, because I think if it doesn't speak for this moment, it will speak later on. And I was too scared to not follow a model. When we were in the room, we were allowed to not only share our perspectives, but we were able to hear the community speak to us, and then not feel alienated and not feel stupid. And I think for so many other people, like I've been assistants for specific rooms, and you don't know if you're gonna say the right thing or contribute the right thing, and the room felt so safe and engaged that you never felt that way. And I think if you foster safe environments in rooms, and I mean, I think it could only do better. And I think we need it, especially right now, especially when we've come so far. We are a part of the movement. I think to deny us, you're denying people their truths. I don't think Hollywood can go the way it's going, because it's not really speaking to the majority anymore. And if we hopefully this gets picked up, and thankfully it will, inshallah. But I just really feel like I think we have a really good thing going, and it's more than the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you. So we have 10 minutes left. You know, we have to close out.